Hello everyone, my name is Phaletic and I'm back with my new series called DevPost. The idea behind DevPost is to go onto the unofficial official forums over at WildStarCentral.com. This is the website where all the developers and community team go onto to talk to the fans of Wildstar. And of course a lot of interesting topics and questions come out of these forums which the developers post and respond to. So the idea of this video is to give you that information in audio form, because personally I'm someone who doesn't like reading through a ton of stuff in order to get my information. I prefer it in video or audio format. So I thought I'll bite the bullet, and because I know there's a lot of other people out there who are similar to me, so I'll do this for you guys and dig out the developer posts and give you what I think is the most interesting stuff. So for this first video, the topic of the post, which is done by Blue Dragon 18, is crafting as a legitimate means of leveling. And here's what he had to say. Some games have shouted to the universe that you can craft your way to maximum level, Guild Wars 2 being the most recent and loudest. What they didn't say is that you can only do that if you have incredible amounts of money and or a high level character feeding you with materials. I can only think of one game where you could actually get your crafting skills to maximum without ever adventuring, and that was EverQuest 1. It wasn't easy, mind you. To make money you had to craft certain recipes many times, and the amount of money you made certainly wasn't as much as you can make by adventuring, questing or grinding. But you could do it. All the components were bought from certain merchants and sold back to merchants. EverQuest 2 had crafting quests that gave you nice rewards. I don't recall that you didn't have to adventure at all, but it wasn't all that much. The problem with all the MMOs I've played since is that unless you're a very high level crafter, the mass of things crafted push prices on the markets to below the material costs. You could only make money by speculating on the market, but that certainly isn't crafting. What I hope for with Wildstar is the ability to craft and sell for a modest profit to merchants, not players. If this is done like EverQuest 1, the gold sellers would have no incentive to do so because it would take longer to craft than to go botting after mobs. If something like this is not implemented, once again there will be a lot of frustrated crafters, and frustrated players are the ones who quit playing. Getting back to EverQuest 1, you had to run back and forth through 3 zones to get the materials to craft and then to sell to merchants. Surely something similar is possible in Wildstar for those who don't find whacking mobs much fun as making things. So of course the topic for this post was crafting as a legitimate means of leveling. Now unfortunately he did sort of go off topic for the most part in this post, and he started talking about the economy and how to make money off crafting rather than leveling up as crafting. But I think he just wanted to have a little bit of a dig at Guild Wars 2 because they were sort of shouting about how you can sort of level up through crafting and all this, but you had to have a lot of money to be able to do it, or a lot of friends to be able to help you do it. But it still gave you a lot of experience when you crafted, and also when you gathered materials as well. So I think the argument that he's trying to portray is that, is it a good thing to be able to level up through crafting, or is it a bad thing, and what does it mean for trade skills in general? He then sort of starts to go on about the economy and how to make money off crafting, and how it was done in EverQuest 1 and EverQuest 2, and how you can sort of defeat gold sellers and all this sort of stuff. So it goes a little bit off topic, but there were some interesting responses nonetheless. Ouchwelitz, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but Ouchwelitz says, "In my opinion, crafting should reward you financially and offer you the possibility of providing tools for yourself, your guild. I hate it when it's used as a leveling tool." Personally, I think this idea has some meat behind it, crafting rewarding you financially, so that if you put the time and effort into crafting and leveling up your crafting and making money from it, for example, as the post said, if you can sell your wares back to the merchants rather than to other players, so that personally as a crafter you can make a lot of money by doing that, then it kind of has some meat behind it, and I can see it working out quite well for the crafters. There was 2 really interesting points that were made in this post. I can't find the people who said it now, but I know the ideas that they were talking about, so I'll just tell you guys that. Now, one of the ideas was doing tasks behind crafting. So activities, quests, mini games, all different types of stuff in order for you to do your crafting. Even maybe even like PvP, for instance, or give yourself an option. Do you want to go into this battleground and get this crafting node, or do you want to do X, Y, and Z to get it? Now, the idea of this is to stop the system of just going out into the world, going to crafting nodes, going to merchants, buying your materials, mining your materials, and then going back into town and just clicking a button and having the crafting system do it for you, and you just make a load of breastplates, right? The idea of this is to say, okay, you know how to make a piece of armor by level 20, for instance. So from level 20 to 30, it's kind of like, we're going to make this really interesting set of armor. And you're talking to this NPC, and it's like, now you know how to make one, we're going to make a magical one, right? And to do this, it's not just about going out there and finding materials, because we already have all the materials to make it. But you have to go out and do this quest in order to gain the knowledge from the Elden or whatever, to be able to make this armor in a specific way, in an upgraded way. So in stats terms, all this is like an enchanted piece of armor, or this armor has a speed boost plus of 5. But in a sort of immersive and gameplay way of looking at it, it's to get this piece of armor, we actually have to go out there and gain the knowledge and defeat this minigame or achieve or complete this quest in order to go from like 20 to 30. So it adds a little bit more interest in crafting. And imagine what happens when you get to level 300 and you're trying to make your way to 400. You might have to start asking guildies to come on these quests with you. You might have to complete a crafting specific dungeon or something along these lines in order to actually level up your crafting, to make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more rewarding for the crafters out there. So basically, as you can see in the responses, the guys got way off topic, and that's what happens a lot with these topics and posts that happen on the forums. Someone basically comes out with a topic like crafting, and no matter what their sort of opinion or post is about, people always turn it around just talking about the general topic. So you'll see that quite a lot, even though it's not about crafting and leveling. But another important part about crafting, well, another interesting thing I've seen was the idea of your houses. So if you didn't know, in Wildstar you can have your own player made houses in which you can customize the inside and the outside, and you can do all sorts of stuff. So, and of course at these houses you can have your own crafting nodes as well. So that's one interesting thing. But the other is to use the houses as another source of reward for the crafters. So in other words, if having a trade skill, that's just like you are a architect or somebody, and you can literally just make a ton of items to go inside your house. So it's using trade skills as a different way of expressing your character, I guess. And I can really see housing coming in as a huge benefit for crafters in both making money to selling their furniture and what have you, and paintings and wallpaper to general people out there, from the people who craft, and in just design and reward aspects, because maybe crafters, maybe if you get up to a certain level in crafting, that you can have a sort of better house or whatever it might be. But I think housing is going to be quite an important aspect of crafting, regardless of how it all turns out. So going on to the developer posts. So the developer that was talking in this thread was Gortok, and Gortok is the Econ Systems Designer. So I'm guessing Econ is the Economy Systems Designer, who's the top dog if you want to make some money. And this is what he responded with. I wanted to have a profession solely on the auction house. That's a tangent, we don't have this presently. Crafting should be fun because the process is fun and interesting. That is our goal. In addition to it being fun, it should be rewarding in that you can make a profit and find your own little niche of expertise. Our systems focus around you doing tasks rather than grinding. We have some customization options. We are not requiring players to have trade skill to be competitive in raiding or PvP, so we can focus more on making crafting for crafters. Crafting will not be a significant source of experience. Alrighty, so I see a lot of information in there, and I'll read to you some of the responses that were said to him after he posted this. But for now, I just want to point out a couple of things to you. I wanted to have a profession solely on the auction house. I think the reason why he put this in there is to get us thinking about how they are thinking about trade skills, if you like. Because having a trade skill solely on the auction house, that's something I've personally never really seen before. I mean, how would that even work? But I think it's the idea of not going with the traditions, and the traditions being stuff like armor smith, weaponsmith, leather maker, or all this sort of different stuff, you know. So it's to give us an idea of how they're thinking about going about trade skills. So it's quite interesting that he actually put this in there. Then he goes on to talk about how crafting should be fun, and it's their goal to make it being fun and rewarding. But what caught my eye was when he said you can find your own little niche of expertise. Because this again opens our eyes to the way they're thinking about making this crafting system. Because usually it's just a sort of step-by-step basis, you know, if you, it's like the whole cup of tea metaphor. You know, you get your cup, you put the tea bag in, you put the water in, you put the milk in, you stir it up, you take tea bag out. That's going to create a massive storm of people talking about tea bags and how if they put the water in first or whatever. But you get my idea. It's usually a step-by-step basis. You go out there, you get your crafting nodes, you bring them back, you make whatever you're going to make. But having your own little niche of expertise, this means that the crafting system has to be so varied, that we can have our own style of crafting. So what does this mean for how they're going to go about it? Obviously we don't know, but it makes us think, right? I mean, what do you guys think about this? Then he goes on to talk about what we was talking about before. Our systems focus around you doing tasks to progress rather than grinding, and we have some customization options just to put the cherry on top of the cake. So already we've got tasks. So rather than grinding out like we was talking about before, where you just go out, get the nodes, bring them back, press a button, press a button, press a button, then you get your breastplate, right? Now it's going to be you have to go out and do some sort of tasks. What that means, I have no idea. What customization options means, I have absolutely no idea. But I think the customization options and the niche of expertise is really important when you're going to be thinking about and speculating about the crafting, because that to me shouts that we're going to change the way crafting's done in MMOs. Because at the moment is everybody does the same thing to achieve the same goal, whereas now it looks like you can do your own thing to achieve your own goals, maybe. So it's interesting to see this type of response come from the developers, because they're basically shutting down the idea of traditional crafting in their game. They're saying that you can have your expertise, your niche of expertise, and you can also customize the way you craft. Now what customizing means, I cannot even begin to speculate, because that goes right over my head. But feel free to speculate yourselves, because I have absolutely no idea. But we have heard it here first, I guess, on this forum post, that it's not going to be like Guild Wars 2 where you can level up through crafting. Like I said earlier, I got from level 70 to 80 purely through doing cooking. I mean, I'm supposed to be this like hero of shame or whatever it was, and I'm going to go out there and defeat the zombie hordes, and then in order for me to get more powerful, I have to bake a cake. It didn't really make much sense, but I can understand the appeal of having leveling through crafting. However, in Wildstar, crafting will not be a significant source of XP, so don't expect to be leveling through crafting in Wildstar. Now, Woke responded to this post, quoting him back, saying what he said, where he said, "We are not requiring players to have trade skill to be competitive in raiding or PvP, so we can focus on making crafting for crafters." And then Woke said in response to this is very vague, but if crafting doesn't impact competitive raiding or PvP, ouch. Basically saying that crafting won't lead to any valuable created items or gear. As far as on a competitive level, you are basically saying that there won't be any consumable crafts. No crafts involving enchantments or enhancements. Who knows? Enchants or enhancements for gear. Since all these things impact competitive raiding or PvP, you are saying these things are not included, so basically crafting is for leveling or fun purposes. Not a big crafter myself, but this sounds like a big mistake. Now, first off, I even noticed a mistake in there, because it says, so basically crafting is for leveling, whereas he said crafting is going to be no significant source of XP, so already hasn't really read the thing properly. So Gortok responds to Woke with this: "That is not what I said at all. Each individual player is not required to craft. Crafted gear absolutely has its role in raiding and PvP. It's not required that you do it, it's required that somebody does it. You may just have to use the auction house to get those items, or have a guildie make them for you." So similar to what we already know, where crafting you don't have to do it, or you can buy the stuff off the auction house, or just say, "Hey buddy, you know, make me this item." But Woke does respond humbly, saying, "Got it. Like I said, it was a little vague, at least to me. I wasn't sure if you meant simply bonuses for maxing out certain crafts. We're not in the game," or basically he sort of says it was a bit vague. But I think when you're a developer and you're posting on a forum, you have to be vague, especially if you haven't announced what you're talking about yet, because everything you say, people like me are looking at every single word and analysing it for the greater good of speculation. So obviously every single post that's going to be done in these dev posts are likely to be vague, and it's all speculation, and I know a lot of people get really annoyed when it's not like factual, but that's what happens in these sort of things. Just want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Impact Hound in this whole thread, if you like. He just comes in and says, "RuneScape let you be a positive crafter, but then it didn't have the traditional leveling system either." You know, just sort of clicks his fingers like, yeah, go RuneScape. But honestly, he does have a really valid point. Because in RuneScape, it's gone a completely different... You could be a level 3 and you could be the richest player in the game. And level 3 is like the lowest level in RuneScape. You know, their crafting system is just rewarding to the people who do it. You can make tons of money off it. However, it's the most grindiest experience you will ever have. I'm sure we all remember back when we was like 13 years old, hitting those like U logs. It's insane, but it does so to show that your crafting system can be completely out there from the traditional systems, and still be really beneficial to the user and the player. Remember, for all of my videos and what have you, in the description, all the links that you need will be there. So if you want to go and have a look at this thread for yourself, then the links will be in the description. You can do some reading up on what people have said and the comments and all this different stuff. And Gortok might respond to some of these guys in the future after this video goes out. So if I haven't mentioned those, then I do apologize. But that sort of leaves it off for this dev post. I don't really want to give the ton of my own personal opinions, because I want this to be more about the community and what people are saying and what the developers are saying, rather than what I'm saying. But so I hope you like the format in which I've done this, where I've sort of talked a little, I've gave you some responses from the guys who have responded on this thread, and of course the developer posts and everything like that. So I do hope you liked it. If you did like it, make sure to share it with your friends and people who you know would also be interested. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time.